Captain Marvel was trash. Let's begin. I went and I saw the Captain Marvel movie on opening night, Thursday. It's probably the worst movie that I've ever seen in my entire life. And I will tell you why, honestly. This is a review because I feel that it is my need to tell everyone the review and my opinion on it so that no one else has to waste their time and money on this, because it is a waste of time. So, I have my computer set up on a very precarious set of boxes beside me with notes, so that's what I'm looking at. Number one, the lead actress, right? Brie Larson. Wow, she's yeah, no, she's a horrible actress. She's probably the worst actress, like the Hollywood actress that I've ever seen. And she's bad because she is unenthusiastic. She has less emotion than Hannibal Lecter, which it's an inside joke from the movie, which I didn't laugh once. All of the jokes fell flat, and I was really pissed off because they tried to make a lot of things jokes, and it didn't work. But and in the entire film, she can only muster enough acting skill for a single teardrop towards the end of the film. She's literally a robot, and I don't know how she got this acting position as the lead role. It doesn't make any sense, but you know. Number two, the story was atrocious. It was horrible on every single level. First off, they did a 180, and unlike the comics, made the Skrull the good guys, because they're so oppressed, and it's so sad to see an oppressed people. But if you go into this movie not knowing anything about the comics and comic book lore, you still know who the real villain is from the very beginning. It was supposed to be a surprise, but it wasn't. And I'm just gonna give you a little hint. It's a white man, right? Because all white men are enemies to the population, right? He's British. Okay, that's number two. That's hint number two. And he has weird fucking eyes. That's hint number three. Who could it be? I'll not spoil that part. The second reason why the plot was probably the worst I've ever seen was because there was none. This is the first and only movie that I have watched in the movie theater where I have actually contemplated leaving in the middle of the film. I don't do that. I didn't leave because I had thought, I'm going to get my $5 worth, but I almost left several times. Because it was so boring and so stupid, I actually was about to leave. Another thing I contemplated doing is I was like, okay, I'm not gonna leave because I need to get my $5 worth, but I'm so bored, so what can I do? Well, I'll just play on my phone, right? Even though there weren't a lot of people there, I still didn't want to be on my phone because I didn't want to be a dick, right? I'm not that kind of guy that sits in the movie theater, pays a ticket for a movie, and then plays on his phone the entire time. That's not me. I go to enjoy the film. Well, this literally, I didn't enjoy it. Therefore, I actually considered playing a game on my phone, but I didn't, right? I didn't, but I considered it. And you may not know me, but I don't do that. like I said, I'm not that kind of person, but this movie, it literally made me want to play on my phone or leave. I felt this way because it was so unbearably boring. Literally nothing happened the entire movie. The only movie that I've ever felt even close to this way before was when I went and saw Jurassic World Fallen King. That movie was stupid and boring and I hated it, but this movie was 10 times worse. The story was so linear and so cliche, it physically hurt my brain. First off, the group slash guys you thought were the villains are actually the good guys, and the guy slash group that you thought were the good guys are actually the bad guys. That is cliche number one. And I knew it literally in the first 5 minutes. It's I'm just gonna move on because it's not I'm getting PTSD from this movie. Seriously, it's not good. The other cliches of this film are more of a political category from modern Hollywood, such as women are so oppressed and men are bad. Black people slash black women specifically are so oppressed and men slash white men are bad. And oppressed group of people who the main character thinks is initially bad, is actually good, has a family, and just wants to go home. The enemy that you have seen kill your men and have heard such horrible stories about, they have families, they just want to have a home. That last one, that last cliche, I got directly from the movie. It's a quote. I'm not kidding. Obviously, I ad-libbed the oppressed part because they would never just say directly that they're oppressed or anything. Right? Just throw down about a dozen context clues, but they don't say it directly. But no, literally the main bad guy, Skrull, has a wife, has a daughter, and tells Captain Marvel, and I quote, "We just want a home." Seriously, one of the largest threats in the Marvel Universe just wants a home. Oh, how sweet and innocent is that? You are going to war with a group of refugees who just want a home. How hard is that? Oh my God, you're so bad because you won't give them a home. Oh man. And yes, I put that under the political cliches because they are indeed talking about immigrants in the United States. That's the understatement. That's what they were trying to hide, right? As this group of refugees, right? They're talking about the Muslims, right, who want to kill everyone who isn't a Muslim, but is oppressed, right? And the Mexicans who want to import tons of heroin and crime into the country because, quote, they just want a home. Simple as that, you know? It's simple. The dialogue was another horrible thing of this movie. Everyone's lines were trash. I kind of blame Brie Larson for her horrible acting, right? Her horrible performance overall was due to her horrible acting. However, literally even Samuel L. Jackson's acting was subpar. It didn't feel right. It didn't feel like he was putting what he put into all of his other Nick Fury roles into this movie, you know what I mean? And so that's why I realized it's not just Brie Larson, it's not just her acting, but it's actually the script as well, right? It's the dialogue that seems choppy and unnatural, and it's causing a veteran actor like Samuel L. Jackson to act like shit. So it wasn't just Brie Larson, right, who's ruining this movie. It was the writers too. The writers who made this horrible story and who wrote the horrible dialogue. Wow. Mystery unraveled. Yeah, that makes so much sense now. Now, we get on to the CGI. Seriously, Disney. It's 2019, and you are the largest film company in the world, and you can't make the CGI look even a little better? It's just a little better? Seriously, some of the later scenes where Captain Marvel is flying around space and stuff, it felt like I was watching a Matrix movie, right? Which was made in the 90s when CGI was just becoming a thing because of how horrible it was. And I use the Matrix as an analogy because when used quickly in those films, CGI didn't look that bad. But like, for example, in the second movie, when they have that scene with all of the Agent Smiths in like the park or whatever, wherever they were, it looked bad. And that is the level of CGI that was in Captain Marvel. It looked that bad. Okay, so people who haven't seen the Matrix movie that I'm referring to don't know that scene, therefore can't really picture it. But those who have seen it, they know, and they know what they're expecting now because it was shit. And now we get on to the final real reason why I hated this movie, and it is the stakes. There were absolutely no stakes in this entire film. That's why I said earlier how it was so linear. Like, it was so linear of a story that it was boring. There was no story arc. There was no hero's journey. It was literally a straight road. And I was stupid enough to begin walking on this straight road. There are no trees. There are no curves in the road. There are no hills. There aren't even any clouds. It's just a road, and everywhere around is a barren wasteland. And finally, after about 2 hours of walking, I finally get to the end. I get to the end of the road, which to my surprise is a cliff. And there's a sign on the cliff ledge that says, "Wow, thanks for getting to the end of this road. We hope you enjoyed. Now it's time to jump. Have a nice fall." That's what it says. So I think, well, okay, I mean, why not, right? I'm already here, so I'll just do it. So I take a running jump, I leap off the cliff, and I begin to fall. I fall, and I start thinking to myself, well, it was so boring. Hopefully, they'll have some way down below at the very bottom of the cliff to make my death more interesting, maybe like a pool of hungry piranhas, or at least, a bunch of spikes, right, to impale myself on. But no, I fall and I go splat. I'm dead on the flat ground. There's nothing to make it more interesting, nothing to make it more exciting. Nope, it's just the straight level ground, and I fell and I died. That, summed up into an analogy, is my experience watching this movie. There were no high stakes to make this movie interesting at all. Nobody important died, not even the villain. No one was even seriously injured. It was more of a drama with periodic CGI explosions than it was a superhero action movie. The third act, which was supposed to contain the climax of the film, was even more boring than the other half of the movie. Captain Marvel as a character is overpowered. So the fight that I later found out was actually the climax was unfair and over in about 5 minutes. The fight that I thought was going to be the real climax, where the hero and the villain face off in one final battle, right, lasted about 2 minutes, and it didn't contain a fight. Oh, that's the joke. I'll explain why. Instead of adding any character development or growth to Captain Marvel's character at all, they just keep in that straight line. If they were to get a grade on how boring they could make this movie, they would get an A+. Nothing happened the entire film. In the beginning of the film, Brie Larson wakes up from a bunch of nightmares, and she goes to her mentor who, spoiler alert, is actually the bad guy, and she asks to train. He kicks her ass completely, and then he throws her on the ground, and she, out of the rage of losing to a man, oh whoa, fires up her power fist, right? But before she punches him, right, with her power that he does not possess, it's only her, he tells her that she needs to learn to control her emotions, right? The classic, so that they don't get the better of you, right? She then blasts him across the room. That's at the beginning of the movie, where she has no control, right? So you think, at the end of the movie, when the villain throws down his weapons, right, and says that he knew she would unlock her full power, some shit like that. And he says that he wants to see her prove herself finally and show that she's ready to no longer be his apprentice. While this is happening, I'm actually thinking, wow, this might actually be a good fight for once. If she doesn't use her powers, right, and she just goes hand to hand with him, when at the very beginning of the movie she lost to hand with him, that would have the possibility of having a character development moment, right? It would have at least a little bit of a character arc. She would be better than she was at the very beginning of the film, right? At the end of the film. But no. No, that's not what they did. She blasts him in the chest, sends him flying into a rock, walks up to him, and says, and I quote,
"I don't have to prove myself to you."
And gives him that self-entitled, bitch feminist Brie Larson signature smirk. That's the climax. That's the climax action scene of the film. It hurts me inside as a filmmaker to have these shitty fucking movies exist. Instead of having what could have been at least a decent fight, and the character development of whom thus far has had no traits and flaws whatsoever, they instead decided to go social justice warrior feminist and tell the villain guy that she didn't have to prove herself to him. Even though, if she did, it would have been entertaining. But I guess the moral of this movie was that films are not supposed to be entertaining. That's just fake news spread by the far right.